Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, welcome to the show, people. I'm feeling it, man, today. So this is actually, I'm recording. I just recorded one. I'm recording another one. So just having fun. So I'm riding a wave. So today I thought I'd talk about our refusal to forget our truth. So like, that's kind of how I saw myself after I woke up as a child. I could see my refusal to forget my truth. You know, it's kind of one of those full circle moments. That's how it was for me. I was looking back and, you know, it's the struggles and you know, there's a certain aspect of my childhood that I really did try to forget my truth. I tried to fit into society. I mean, I think that everybody does that. Like you're a child, you're new to this world, so you don't know, right? You know, so we come in here knowing our truth and everything, and that everything is love, and then we start getting inundated by these rules and these concepts of time and all this, and conditional love by our loved ones. You know, you get approval when you do something right and disapproval when you do something wrong, and you're like, wait, like everything is conditional love. Like what? Like, why would it be like that? And it's like, I look back on it now, and the difficulty, it's almost like I could see myself and the confusion that I was going through, because like the dream of the planet, now that I'm awake, the societal standards and the way we do things on Earth that are socially acceptable, like, don't make sense to me. You know, the school system doesn't make sense to me. The governmental system doesn't make sense to me. Like the hierarchy, the hoarding of wealth and food while other people starve, like that. Like it just, everything seems like it's out of balance with nature. It just doesn't. It's like we just kind of decided we were above nature because we could think, you know. And we decided we're going to control it instead of it controlling us. So, which we kind of did, you know, we built houses and to protect us from the elements, and we created things like air conditioning and heaters and, you know, all this stuff. So, you know, in some ways we kind of accomplished that, you know, right up until Mother Nature brings in a hurricane or a tornado, right? And then we're like, oh, whoops, I guess you are in charge. You know? So my point being, I think we kind of forgot, like, that we're part of nature, and therefore a lot of the things we do are just so self-serving and they don't really align with how we are naturally, you know, like putting kids in a chair at a desk when they're at the height of their energy levels. I think it just doesn't make sense. Like, not that they're not supposed to learn things, but I don't think they're supposed to learn things in that way. And even if they are supposed to learn things in that way, like, I think maybe, like, let's just take hypothetically like a 8-hour day, then maybe like taking in information through a teacher, like a verbal way or something, maybe 2 hours a day. And then experiencing things and learning things hands-on and playing and exposing themselves to other things, like arts and music and nature and how to survive and live and be happy, and like that type of stuff should have its place, where it doesn't. So my point is that, society is set up in such a structured way that just starves the individualism out of people, and that just kills their creativity and all this stuff. And so it takes us a long time to learn. And I look back, like, as I was a parent, I realized, I could see it from another perspective. And I was like, wow, isn't it interesting how long it takes children to understand the concept of time? Like we can condition them to, just like, well, no, you have to eat when you're supposed to eat, not when you're hungry. Okay, well, they'll learn to not listen to their body fairly quickly. So we can beat that out of them fairly quickly. But like time is something that all adults run their entire existence around. What time they're going to get up, what time they're going to have breakfast, how long breakfast is going to take, how long the drive to work is going to take, how long they're going to be working, how long, like our whole society, our whole lives are structured by time. And so children are exposed to that as much, if not more, than just about anything else, because it's our existence depends on it as much, if not more, than anything else. So they're exposed to it as much or more than anything else. So, but it takes them years and years and years to understand time. I can't remember when my son finally understood time. And even once he finally understood it, it took a while for him to understand its importance, I guess, in our society. I'll phrase it like that. It'd be like, yeah, he gets the concept of time, but it really didn't seem that important. A lot of people are still like that, right? But my point is with all this exposure to the concept of time, it takes a very long time for children to finally just absorb that this is how reality works here on Earth. So, I don't know, when do they get it? Like around 7 or 8, maybe? I'm not sure. I'd be interested. Reach out to me. Let me know. I don't remember when my son was little. But yeah, let me know when your kids actually grasp time. So this is our conditioning. This is how we live. And so I was really trying to fit in, and I couldn't. And it's almost like, I think an aspect of it was physical because of like ADHD, impulse control issues. But I think there's a meaning to everything. So why did I have the impulse control issues? Why did I have the ADHD? Like, I think maybe because I wasn't supposed to completely fall asleep to the dream of the planet. And if I didn't have so much trouble, maybe I would have fallen asleep to the dream of the planet. And just, if I could fit into society and function in it, and I wanted to, right? Because we all want to fit in and to the system that's in place and get accolades and have people love us and show us attention and pat us on the back and say a job well done. We all want that. So maybe if I got it to the level that I wanted it, maybe I would have bought into the dream of the planet more. So maybe that's why I came in with the ADHD, whatever. But, later on in life, as I started getting older and I started being able to think, I questioned a lot of stuff. and I think that this affects the long-standing traditions. Like I've said before, like, most of life was kind of based on because I said so for tens of thousands of years. That's just, you did what your parents told you to, and you didn't question things, especially structures, long-standing structures like governmental structures and caste systems and organized religion. Like, you didn't question those things. Like, they just were. That was how life functioned for tens of thousands of years. And then the hippies come in, and it's the first time you had that large of a group of humanity that was questioning things. So they come in and they start shaking things up by going like, yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? And, and I saw this in my life. It was like, God loves you. God is love. God is love, 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 love. And then it was like, he killed all the newborn babies in Egypt. And if you don't, if you don't listen to your parents, or the higher ups, then you are going to hell. And if you sin, you're going to hell. But yet Jesus died for your sins. And I'm like, I don't, like, none of this stuff makes sense. I was like, I don't get it. Like, if I sin and I'm a bad person, and I've definitely sinned and I can't control it, then I'm screwed. Like, why bother? I mean, I'm already hosed. And if I can just ask for forgiveness, like, it just didn't make sense. The system that they were preaching to me, they were calling it love, and it felt like hate and control. And I didn't understand it, And I think it was, now that I can look at religion through spiritual eyes, I think it was the way it was presented, quite honestly, because I don't, like, somebody said this to me many years ago, and it really warmed my heart. Somebody said that was raised Catholic, like I was raised Catholic, and you always hear all kinds of bad stuff about Catholicism, and some of it rightfully so. But this person was raised Catholic, very Catholic families, and into adulthood, still very Catholic. The whole family is very Catholic. And he was like, yeah, I hear people talking about all this bad stuff and Catholicism and all this fire and brimstone and anger and hate. And it's like, that just wasn't my experience. Like, I grew up in a church, and it was a very loving environment. And I always felt loved and supported and safe there. And I was like, wow, like, yeah, that wasn't my experience at all. But I'm really glad to hear it was his. It warmed my heart that it was his, because it was like, just knowing that existed, because I didn't experience it, so I didn't know it existed. But just knowing that it existed for other people really warmed my heart, because I think that is what happens when religion is used for the purpose in which it was intended, which is to enhance our personal connection with God. When it's used for that, I think it is very loving and wonderful. When it's used in other ways by confused people, then that's where you see the bad stuff happening. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with religion per se. It's just how it was presented to me. And I just couldn't forget my truth. I couldn't just be like, oh, okay, well, good is bad and bad is good, and those are the same, and God loves me, but he's going to strike me down with lightning. But I couldn't I couldn't make sense of that. It was like, to me, it was either like God is love or God isn't love. It can't be both. So I just kind of stepped away from that. And then, the other way I experienced it was in society, and, I didn't fit in. So like, as I got older, it was more of a conscious thing. When I was younger, I tried to fit in, and then I decided I couldn't. So I said, screw it. But what that did is it opened me up to just choose how I wanted to live without trying to please anybody. So when these people would say, now, let's be fair here. Like, my interpretation of what people were saying wasn't always on. Like, like how I perceived things was my own perception. So a lot of times when the adults were saying oh, you need to fit in to be happy, I was like, well, like, I can't accept that. I can't accept that. Because it wasn't my experience. Like, I couldn't fit in. I tried and I couldn't. So that's, that was gone. Like, that trying to fit in society was gone. So now what? It's like, well, you have to fit in or else you're not going to be happy. And I'm like, I just can't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, how could I possibly have been created to not fit into society? Because I just don't. But yeah, I have to fit into society to be happy. Like, that can't be true. It just can't. It doesn't make any sense. So this loving God created me, and I'm not allowed to be happy because of the way he created me. It doesn't make sense. And they would say, like, and well, why? Well, when you fit in, then you can have these jobs. And I saw, like, these jobs, like corporate America. I kind of saw it like I saw school systems. Like, they had the principal and the disciplinarians and the teachers, like kind of the groups of the hierarchy, right? And they were telling everybody below them what to do, and they made all the decisions, and you didn't really have your own voice, and you just shut up and did what you were told, which I was not good at. So I'm looking at that and going, like, okay, so I'm going to kiss ass, because as I get older, I got more rebellious, and it's like, that's kind of how I perceived it. Like, so I'm just going to do what other people tell me to do for the rest of my life. That's the plan. Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't. I literally can't do that. I can't be happy just listening to other people control my life. Like, that's how I perceived it. And I know that not everybody perceives it this way, but that's kind of my point. It was my refusal to forget my truth, where it was like, because at some point I could have bought in. I've never bought into society, never. I've been really confused about it for very long periods of time. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, what I'm explaining now, I didn't understand any of it. Like, I got flashes of consciousness. The things that I'm saying to you about how I felt, it's because I specifically remember. Like, I can go back and specifically remember specific thoughts that I had when I was trying to make sense of this type of stuff. I don't think anybody like it. Well, I'm sure everybody can do it. I just don't know that everybody knows how to do it. I don't know if I know how to do it. Somehow I got that ability somewhere. So I can go back and remember specific mindsets that I was thinking and how I came to conclusions back when I was young. So it was just like, it just didn't make sense to me. I knew that living how other people were telling me was not making me happy, and I couldn't wait to get out of school so I didn't have to do it anymore. But then I was going to go into corporate America and put myself into the same situation, and I needed that to be happy. So it just didn't make sense. So like I started, the only other thing I saw outside of corporate America was these, I grew up in a mostly French Canadian town in Massachusetts. And, we had, like, my father was in IT. So we had, the white collar jobs in corporate America, but we also had parents that were very blue collar jobs, lots of blue collar community. So like I saw these fathers of my friends working with their hands and like, not with a lot of education. And I really respected that. because I was a very physical being and stuff, and I liked using my body. So like to them, like they worked hard, and it was an honest living. And I latched onto that blue collar mentality, like that's being a man. This corporate America stuff is BS. I'm sure partly fueled by my rebellion towards my father as I got older. But and that lasted a while, and I did steel work. I worked in wood factories, all kinds of stuff. By the time I was like 24, I still didn't like corporate America, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to be making a living out in the cold or out in the heat doing steel work or, construction, all that type of, I was like, screw that. I need to start making a living with my mind. So I got into leasing apartments and assistant manager of this apartment complex. But it was specifically because I wanted to get out of the physical aspect. And I was already there at like 24. But I was still anti-corporate America because it is symbolized this forgetting my truth, having other people tell me what to do. Now, was that true? No, not really. I think you can be in any area in a healthy way. And I think my father is a good example of that. Like he was in corporate America and he did very well, but he kept like a little bit of space between him and the system. Like he understood that the system was kind of messed up. So he used the system to benefit him as opposed to drinking the Kool-Aid and just buying into the system and being like, oh, that's the way it is. I mean, of course you need to buy into it to some degree, but to me, he had a different way of refusing to forget his truth. Like he was able to fit into society, but still not lose his values and himself, which, I respect immensely. I don't know how the hell he did that because quite honestly, I haven't seen it that often. And maybe more people are doing it than I know, because this is, how do you have this conversation? Even a lot of even when my father was doing it, I don't know that he was completely conscious of what he was doing, or if he would have had the words to explain it. I don't know. And if he did, whether I would have understood it. So I think, maybe there probably are more people than I realize that are doing this. It's just people don't talk about it. Right. So maybe we'll start. So how you can refuse to forget your truth, but still find your way into a system and navigate that system and use the system to benefit you. This is what I tried to teach my son. Like my son was like, oh, school is ridiculous. It's stupid. And I'm probably not going to use most of this stuff when I get older. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And his eyes popped out of his head. He was like, what? I'm right. Awesome. He thought I was going to do the typical adult thing and be like, no, school is important and blah, 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 blah. That wasn't my experience. So I wasn't going to tell him that. I said, yeah, you're right. A lot of it's a load of crap, and you're not going to use most of it. But the situation we're in, if I had my choice, I would have found a way to homeschool him or alternative school or something, because he didn't fit into that system. But I wasn't, when he was little, until I got full custody when he was 12, all those younger years, his mom had full custody. I had no custodial rights whatsoever. Even spending 4 or 5 days a week with him, I had no decision-making capabilities. His mom had that. So I needed to walk the line really careful and I had to go along with whatever she decided for the most part. I couldn't rock the boat too much. I'd push back here and there to try to get my influence in, but I wasn't going to be able to get him out of school. There's no way. So I had to try to get him to fit into the system to where it benefited him instead of, this is one of the things that causes a lot of controversy between adults and children, of course, specifically parents and children, but even teachers and children, is that we try to teach our kids to do what they're told just because they're told it. And that doesn't make sense when it goes against their truth. This is where we get the pushback. And then as years unfold, what happens is it's us against them, because they've been, as they start developing their own identity, when they hit 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and they're developing into their own person, and they don't know who they are yet. All they know is that they don't feel like a little child that doesn't have their own way of thinking. They have their own way of thinking now, and they would like to think like that. And they're still shaping it and stuff. But all they know is that they're not they don't feel like that little kid anymore. And that little kid just blindly walked around doing what he was told all the time because he had no other choice. Now they're starting to grab their sense of choice and want to implement that. And so all they can do is rebel against, because they don't know what they're doing yet. So they just rebel against what they're told. And if the best excuse is like, sitting at a desk all day when you're a kid because you have to, like, that it just doesn't fly anymore. Just doesn't fly. Well, because it's the right thing to do and you have to. Like, even if they do it, they don't believe it, because there's a certain aspect that's a refusal to forget their truth. Some do. Some just drink the Kool-Aid at a young age and just go with whatever anybody tells them, and they don't cause any bumps in the road. And everybody says they're the good kids. Oh, they're the good ones. Oh, they're the ones that are going to do wonderful in life. Why? Because they don't think for themselves. They just do whatever they're told. They're the ones that are going to succeed. They're the ones that are going to, look at all these people rebelling and these kids doing things differently and all this stuff. And everybody runs around, oh my God, our future is horrible. These kids don't do what they're supposed to anymore. Like, good. What they're supposed to is screwed. Our system of life is ridiculous. Like, all the money and power funnels upward, and everybody underneath that, their lives just get worse and worse and worse over the decades. And why? Because people shut up and do what they're told. That's why. I want people to cause waves, especially in a crappy environment. I know it's frustrating being a parent. I was a parent. It's not like I didn't get frustrated when my kid was, seemingly from a parent's perspective, it's like they're making our life more difficult. Well, it's not about us. It's about them and their refusal to forget the truth. So I think, as I got older, it was like, it was kind of that full circle moment after I woke up, when I looked back at all this and I saw my childhood and my teenage years, different reasons, different ways, but there was always something that was preventing me from fully drinking the Kool-Aid of society and forgetting my truth. But the problem was I didn't know the alternative. I didn't know how to live in another way that wasn't drinking the society's Kool-Aid, that was still functional. Why? Because I had no examples of this. I had no, there was nobody that I could see as a role model that didn't fit into society that was doing good. Right? Not that I could understand. It was just reinforced over and over. Fit into society, fit in, or you're bad. Fit in or you're bad. Those were the only two things that I got. Fit in or you're bad. So it was like, so after a while, I settled into, okay, I'm bad. But I still wanted to function. Like, I still wanted to be happy. Just because I was like, okay, I don't fit into your system. It doesn't mean that I lost the desire to be content and peaceful and happy and successful even. You know, there were times when I pretended I didn't want to be successful, but I did, you know. So I didn't lose all that stuff. I just didn't know how to accomplish it without fitting into society. And then, so here's my full circle. After I wake up and I look at that and I'm like, wow, man, like you just refuse to forget your truth. Some of it maybe when you were really young wasn't your doing. You just couldn't. And then as you get older, you really chose to not forget your truth. You wouldn't buy into a system that didn't make any sense to you. That's what I mean by refusal to forget my truth. I just couldn't buy into it, man. I couldn't make myself do things to align to a system that didn't make sense to me. I try to do it every once in a while. And I remember being in this energy, the energy that I'm in right now. It's like I'm remembering the energy then. Like I remember trying to fit in and doing the right things. And there was just this feeling inside that I was just selling myself out and it was a load of crap. And I needed to blow it all up because I just couldn't live like this. I couldn't live buying into the system the way I was acting like I was buying into the system. It just wasn't me. I could never be at peace with myself if I did that. I remember feeling that and me going like, and it was, it was really like kind of depressing because I wanted to fit in and I wanted to succeed so bad. And I was just like, yeah, but I gotta throw an M80 in the toilet, man. I need to blow this all up. I don't want to. I wish I could fit in, but I just can't. I just cannot let go of what I know is right and wrong and pretend that I'm part of this ridiculous system. I just can't. I can't. I want to, but I can't. And so I'd go in kind of half-heartedly and I'd, say something stupid or something, just wait until my boss was like, would tell me to do something stupid. And I'd be like, you know what? And I wouldn't want to do it. Like I was so torn, like 50% of me didn't want to do it. And 50% of me knew I had to do it, or 51% of me knew I had to do it. And 49% of me didn't want to. And I just look at the, I'd look at the person and just be like, you're an idiot. And they'd be like, what? You're an idiot. Oh my God. I've been trying to just listen to you and do what you say, but you're so stupid. And the things that you make people do are stupid and you're a moron. And I have to tell you this so I can live with myself. I remember this one time there was this guy, it was the same energy. That's why I'm remembering it, but I won't go real deep into it. There was this one guy who used to give me a hard time all the time because I had a fake ID to drink when I think I got my first one when I was 15 or 16, but I had one basically until I turned 21. And this one person knew that I was underage, but I had such a good ID straight from the registry in Massachusetts that like nobody could turn away my ID. So this guy would bartended and he would give me crap every once in a while. And it was more than just that. He was pissed off that I was getting away with something and he couldn't prove it. And it turned into this thing that lasted years. And he would always act like a dick to me over that. Just throw jabs at me, just here and there, and it was never a big deal. It was just annoying. And one day I just wasn't in the mood for it. And I walked in, I sat down, he was bartending and I asked him for a draft and he pours me a draft beer, puts it in front of me, and he throws a dig at me. And I was in that same energy. I didn't want to start trouble. I didn't want to get into an argument with him. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was just like, the energy was just like deflated. I was like, now I have to do something that I don't really want to do, but I can't continue to allow this to go on. So I'm just going to do it. So I just grabbed my beer and I splashed a full beer right in his face. And, he came over the bar and the bouncers came and I blacked out and it was this huge melee, which is another story. But it was just, I remember that feeling, just going, oh, I don't want to do this, but I just can't keep my mouth shut any longer. I have to throw a wrench into things. And I know there's going to be huge repercussions and it's going to get really ugly. And I don't really feel like going through that, but I need to do it anyway, because I can't forget my truth. I can't buy into this BS system. So that's how it was. And when I woke up, I saw all that. And then I was like, yeah, but I'm fitting into society now. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. I'm living a life where I'm contented and peaceful and happy now. So why can I do that now when I couldn't do it before? Because not only have I not forgotten my truth, but I've really opened up to my truth that much more. And I realized somehow what I figured out was how to be me in the system and use the system the way that I wanted it. You know, how to truly be me. And that's all I ever wanted to do, was just be myself. So now, you guys are listening to a podcast, and all it is just me being authentically me. That's it. I've always talked a lot. I've always been rebellious. I've always seen things a little bit differently. I opened up 20 years ago and saw things even more differently. And now I make a living by sharing the way that I see things that makes sense to me. And I've even found out ways to that like what I think the biggest shift for those people, like I found a way to make a living outside of corporate America and the structured stuff, right? But I also have found ways for people to fit into the society without losing themselves. So that is a lot of what I teach, because I have to teach the dynamics and then take those dynamics and find a way for people to fit it into their particular journey that matches with their truth and their personality and their circumstances. That's why I like the dynamics, because the dynamics are true for everyone, in my opinion. Spiritual law, the way things work, dynamics, that works in every situation with every person, everywhere, all the time. That's why I like them. I can use them in my particular way, but that's way up here on the surface. Like the spiritual laws or the dynamics that I'm always talking about are way down on the bottom, on a deep level. How we take those and come up and bring them up to the surface to manifest into our lives and in our particular way, that's completely individual. So just because I needed to start a business talking through this podcast and teaching the way that I see things and understand reality, like just because I have to do that doesn't mean that everybody else has to do that. What it is like, it's just my truth, and I find a way to express it in that way. So what I do is I take other people's truth and talents and gifts and make sure that their perspective is healthy about the way they bring it up into the world. Our perspective is everything. So like what I mean by that is, if you have somebody that works in corporate America and they are sitting there going like, my boss craps on me on a regular basis and I hate it, and I hate my job, and I'm miserable all the time. Like that is an unhealthy perspective and outlook and dynamic and circumstance. So what you need to do, there's multiple ways to handle that. And they're all dependent on the person's personal circumstances. Like most people say their boss is a jerk, but most people don't need to leave their job to find peace in it. Some do. Most don't. But a lot of times it's shifting perspectives. If you start understanding, like we become victims of everything. That's our perspective in this day and age. Oh, I have to go to work. Oh, I have to go get groceries. Oh, I have to get gas. Oh, I have to take my kid to soccer. No, you don't have to do any of those things. You're choosing to do them because they're good choices. You're choosing to go to work because it pays your bills. You had your fingers crossed and you put on a social media, please, all prayer warriors, I need your help, when you were applying for that job because you wanted it so freaking bad. You thought it was going to save your life because you needed money. Now you've been there a year and you hate it. What transpired? It was just your perspective that changed. The job didn't change. So when you shift your perspective, like if your boss is giving you crap all the time, then what you need to do is most often is find a way to set boundaries with your boss. And in most situations, most people think that they can't, and 90% of the time you can. So when you shift perspective and you start standing in your power, then all of a sudden you can change the dynamic in your work environment. Sometimes you need to find another job. Like I said, how it manifests is different for everybody. And that's what I help people find the way that works for them in their particular situation. It's all individualized, but it's the same dynamic underneath. So my point is like when you find a way to get your job working for you instead of you working for your job, when you find a different way to look at it, and sometimes you have to set boundaries, take actions to change the dynamic of it a little bit. When you do that, now all of a sudden you're using your job to get what you want out of life instead of the job, your perception being the job using you, and you're the victim of it. And that is a gigantic shift in people's peace and happiness and contentment in their lives. Because if you're at a job 8-10 hours a day that you hate and you perceive yourself as a victim of and have no choice but to go even though you don't want to, if that's your perception, you're living in a very unhappy life. So if you shift those perspectives and start empowering yourself, and you can either change the dynamics of the job, you can go find another job, you might have to go find another career. Sometimes it takes 3 months, sometimes it takes 3 years, depending on what needs to transpire. But whatever, like if you're 35, you're going to be 38 in 3 years. Where do you want to be in 38? Do you want to be out of your situation? Or do you want to be exactly where you are when 35, only 3 years more frustrated? Because those are your choices. People are like, oh, I can't go back to school for 5 years. Oh my God, going to school part-time, that would take me 8 years. So what are you, 40? So you're going to be 48. So what do you want to be doing when you're 48? Because I think you got to work until what, you're 68 or something now, minimum. Maybe 67, I don't know. But whatever, let's say 47 years of school. 40, so you're going to be 47. And what do you want to do? Be 7 years longer at your job and 7 years more frustrated at 47, and then still have 20 years more to work? So you just, by doing nothing, you sentence yourself to 27 years, minimum 27 years of more suffering. Or you go back to school when you're 40 and you graduate by the time you're 47, and then you have 20 years to experience life doing what you actually enjoy or more. Like, I'll take that option, please. But it's about shifting the perspective and seeing things, taking control of your life and going, if I don't, like we all, this idea, oh my God, I can't even go into this that much. The idea that we have no control over our lives goes right up my ass sideways. Like it's such a pet peeve of mine. Like when people, oh, it's not that easy. Oh, I can't. You don't understand. You are so full of crap. That's an excuse to stay stuck. I'm not saying it's easy. All I'm saying is, you think it was easy starting a business while I was collecting food stamps and just got custody of my son? Think that was easy? Oh, I did it. It was just Glenn's lucky. He gets to do what he wants for a living. No, it wasn't luck. It was because I worked towards it. That's all. And anybody can do that. Like anybody, literally. There's nothing special about me. So you're not stuck. Shift your perspectives and find a way to fit into society, or find a way to make a living without fitting into society. So I looked at mine and I'm like, okay, well, my life, like I was never meant to fit into society. I was never meant to work in corporate America. Never. Like I don't, who knows? Maybe if I had such like a really healthy perspective, like my father somehow figured out at a young age, maybe I could have done it. If I felt like I was in control and I was using the system instead of the system using me, maybe. But I don't think so. I don't know. All those rebellious years, it's I guess they took a toll. I have to have my own business. I cannot work for anybody else. I just can't. We're all different, and that's part of me, but I know that that's not a problem now. Like we're not all supposed to fit into some cookie cutter system. Like there's people all around the fringes. And quite honestly, most of the people who are highly successful are outside the fringe. Most of the real successful people, the highest success levels, are outside the fringe. Think about all your music stars and your actors and actresses and the sports and all your creative thinkers that are business moguls that are outside the system. Like they didn't get highly successful because they fit in. They got highly successful because they created something that was outside of the norm and or ways of doing things. I think Richard Branson's a good example of that. I mean, even like, I don't know that much about Elon Musk, but I mean, like his, he's not your average person. Like his brain works differently, than the average corporate America fit into society and just do your part. He doesn't think like that. So it's okay to fit into society's standards if you do it with the right perspective, where you're using the system instead of being used by the system. And some people can find that way. Some people don't even care, like this whole, I'm going to wrap it up here, but like this whole podcast has been about kind of the rebel mentality. But I'm hoping that everybody's going to, I think everybody has some rebel in them. So my hope is that everybody's going to relate to this to some degree, even if they fit in that inner resistance to forgetting your truth, to, like, or second guessing it, whatever your version is. It's just like, if you grasp what I'm saying, then you can kind of zoom out and see the world differently, I believe, and see yourself fitting into it differently. Like if you fit into society and have lived kind of a peaceful, contented life for the most part, then you found a way to do it in a way that works for you. Like that's a good thing. It's not like fitting into society is bad and being a rebel is good. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I wish I could have fit in. So like for the people who fit in and still can be content, the reason you can is because you found a way to view it so it's serving you. You're getting what you want out of it. You're not feeling like a victim of it. And that's a good thing. That's, believe it or not, not everybody thinks like you. Right? This is why I find it interesting to talk about, is because we only know our perspective, because it's our perspective and we don't know any other one. So so the people who fit in don't understand what these rebels are doing, and the rebels don't understand what the people who fit in are doing, and we can both learn from each other. That's why I like looking and understanding these types of dynamics, because when I see people that fit into society that are miserable, I see people who are forgetting their truth. And what they need to do is they either need to get out of the system and go start their own thing, or they need to shift their perspectives so they can fit into the system without losing themselves, right? And it's the same thing with the rebels. The rebels who are on the outside of the system, if they're happy, then it's because they're living their truth outside of the system. If they're miserable, it's because they don't understand why they have to live outside their truth. They need to shift their perspective and see that living outside of it is benefiting them. Either that, or they might have to shift their perspective and find out that if they shift their perspective to something healthier, they could actually get into the system and use it to benefit them. Right? It's all perspective. It's all about how we look at things. And there are certain aspects of that have to align with our truth. So what aligns with my truth is not being in the system at all, really. But that's like the black and the white, those are extremes. I tend to be usually very close to one of the extremes. It's just my personality. Most people are in the gray area. Well, I'm even in the gray area. I'm not completely extreme. But most areas are gray, and we all fit in there somewhere, and we got to find what works for us. Sometimes it's shifting our perspective and being part of the system. Sometimes it's getting out of the system, whatever. We got to find what works for us and make sure we're looking at it from a healthy perspective that serves us, because we can't be a victim of things and expect to be happy. Well, I don't want to, but I have to. Well, you're setting yourself up for a miserable existence then. I would work on shifting that and finding a different way to look at it. Oh, well, that's lying to myself. That's what the ego says. No, I have to be miserable, because if I say anything other than this belief system that I've locked onto, that I am a victim, if I think of things any way other than that, then I'm lying to myself. So, no, you just really locked onto a belief system. So looking at your job going, oh, I have to go to work, because if I don't go to work, then I can't eat, and I hate my job, but I can't change it. I have no other options, and that's the truth. No, it's actually not the truth. That's your perspective. Because there are people quite possibly doing the exact same job as you that don't particularly like it, that are sitting there going like, thank God I got this job. Thank God I got this job and I can take care of my family. Yeah, it's not perfect for me, but thank God I have this. And you know what I'm going to do since it's not perfect for me? I'm going to little by little chip away at something that is a little bit more in alignment with me. That's empowerment. One isn't more true than the other. Well, actually, I think the empowerment way is actually more true. I don't think the victim way is real true, because the victim way implies that you have no options, which simply isn't true. We all have options. Some more than others, granted, but we all have options. There's something we can do differently. And the stuff that we can't do differently, we can shift our perspectives on it. So hoorah out there to those of us who have forgotten to refuse to forget our truth. It's a good thing, I think, because that's our only way of being happy is living in alignment with our truth, our authenticity, being authentically us. When we are authentically us, then we are happy. So we got to, it's just being authentically us, we can do in basically almost every situation. Some people can do it in every situation. It's not external. We're always looking at the external. Oh, yeah, but I can't be me and be in the system. I can't, I can't, so I get it. But I think 90% of the people who say they can't actually can, and only 10% can't, or 25% can't. Or let's say 50% can't. 50%, let's just split it down the middle. I think the people who think that they can't fit into the system, it's because they're like me when I was younger. I thought I couldn't fit into the system at all. Like, I know that I said that I can't. I mean, I could if I had to. I could for at least certain periods of time. But then I'm closer to the extreme, so I get out. But most people who don't think that they can fit into the system, I'd say it's probably 50-50. Like 50% really can't fit into the system, and they need to find another way, and they need to start working towards that. And the other 50% actually can fit into the system. It's just they need to shift their perspectives to see how they can use the system to get what they want, to work for them, instead of them working for the system. As long as you think you're being used, you're going to feel like crap, and you're going to try to rebel against it at some point. And you're going to suffer, and you're going to feel horrible. So let's empower ourselves, people. Empower ourselves. Walk towards your dreams. And that is going to do it for today. So peace. Talk with you soon.